Welcome in to the Paul Kuharsky podcast. I'm Paul Kuharsky of paulkuharsky.com. I like to say my name a lot at the beginning of the podcast. I am part of the 440 Sports Network. I am semi-produced by JT Runke, who started to go by TJ. It's very confusing. I am at Edleys Barbecue in Franklin, my favorite place from which to broadcast. They have locations all over Middle Tennessee. I usually eat after. Today I was hungry and I just had amazing avocado salad with chicken. That is one of the several brilliant offerings that they have here. And I will probably have dessert before I leave, let's be honest. Witnessed some 15U baseball this morning. Wasn't great. It's a little bit better. Have some more this weekend. I hope you've got a great weekend ahead of you. Titans have wrapped their minicamp, and outside of rookies having another week with the coaches, they are done until they report on July 22nd and hit the field on July 23rd. 4 days, I believe, out of pads, a day off, and then in pads. So a lot of time to mull things over until meaningful action. And then this is really the 1 month of NFL time that is dead time. No serious contract negotiations, any of that. Audrey, welcome. Focus, good to see you. Appreciate those of you who are shuffling in. We're going to talk about Cam Ward's standing after the completion of his first offseason as the Titans quarterback. This trash talking that went on between he and Jeffrey Simmons. I've got a bunch of things that surprised me or that I noticed during this camp about certain players. I'm going to take a lot of your questions about what's going on. Want to talk about the defensive backs, the second inside linebacker, Will Levis. So we will dive in here and get to a bunch of stuff. And let's start it off with Cam Ward. Look, Cam Ward, got to remind ourselves he's a rookie. He's not all of the, we want to do a lot of anointing. It's premature to do anointing. I know people want to be excited about the number one draft pick. Think he's going to be this team that saves the franchise. All of this obviously is to be determined. Were there a lot of good things about him? Absolutely. The quick release is very encouraging, though it's important to note that, in the last 2 seasons when we watched Will Levis in training camp, we loved his quick release. He's decisive. The ball comes out on time. Some of the young receivers talked about that. You better be ready because it's going to show up. And that's all good. Overall, steady progress for sure. But let's not overhype. Let's not over-anoint. And let's not, I think you declare surety that he's the guy at this stage at your own risk. If that's your thing, and you want to completely say that he's it and risk the disappointment of him not being it, go for it. If you're more level-headed and want to go in stages and let him build and prove it and then build things around it, I am much more that type of guy. I would encourage you to be that type of guy. Then do that. I would bring you along. Here's Jeremy. What are my thoughts on the Titans fans on X acting like Cam Ward is the next coming of Warren Moon just because of snips the Titans put out? Well, the Titans put out and their highlight production and camera work is fantastic. They put out one throw. I don't know when it was. I just caught a glimpse of it this morning of him moving to his right, and he threw back across the field. I think it was Isle Manor who made the catch, and there was nobody near Isle Manor. I don't know if there was a defense on the field. It was a throw back across his body, the inadvisable throw that every fan knows you shouldn't make, every quarterback knows you shouldn't make, every receiver knows you shouldn't make, every defender hopes that a quarterback makes. Now, yesterday, when the Titans were working in the red zone, he made that throw twice. And the first one, he had a lot of time. He rolled out, and he threw back across his body, and there was no receiver in the area in the middle of the end zone, except that Cody Barton was standing there waiting for the throw and caught it very easily for an interception. It was a deathly play. 2 snaps later for Cam Ward, there were a few snaps for another quarterback in there. He did the same thing. He rolled out and he threw back to the middle. Jamari Harris broke this one up. I think it was intended for Chim DK. It was a very dangerous play that could have resulted in a disaster. This one didn't end in a disaster. So are you excited by that clip where he throws back across his body to I think it was Isle Manor in the Titans video? Like, you should not get overly excited about that, because when it was put into practice in practice against the defense in the red zone, he made the worst decision of all of the practices that the media saw and that we got to witness. And then I don't think he reacted well to it. Frankly, I understand a guy saying, "Hey, in the big picture, that's not important. I know not to do that, yada yada." But that's not where he went. This is where he went.
The first one, 7-on-7, I don't count that. It's not real football. I'm glad I threw it to Cody. That was 6 points for my team. The second one, I should have sidearmed it. I don't know why I did some generic stuff. And really just getting better off the field. Got to continue to move backwards with my eyes. And then really just, playing clean football, especially in the red zone. I have to take care of the ball. I'm aware of that. But, I'd rather do all the crazy stuff in practice, so the game I know I can get away with it.
Well, sure, do the crazy stuff in practice. But to say that 7-on-7 doesn't count because that's not real football. Do you know how much 7-on-7 the Titans do in practice? Do you know how much 7-on-7 NFL teams do in real practice? So Cam Ward can't discount his 7-on-7 interception because it's not real practice. Because he threw touchdowns in 7-on-7 that are going to count as good film, and that counts. I mean, we can't discard 7-on-7 stuff. I'm sure the Titans staff is not discounting all the 7-on-7 film they've collected through 10 OTA phase 3 practices, including minicamp. It counts. So I thought that was rather dismissive. And then listen to the guy who intercepted the pass. This is not a good indication.
Yeah, the one back there. Yeah, just one of those scramble plays to where, I'm kind of the middle of the field kind of defender, and just, I didn't, in the past I remembered, he'd hit a couple where he'd scrambled and came back across the field with it. And so I was running and I remembered that, so I just sat. And usually when you sit and they try to throw it back across the grain, good things can happen.
I remember getting a couple where he scrambled and threw back across the grain. Well, look, he's a young quarterback, right? He's got to learn stuff like you can't throw back against the grain. He probably got away with this in college some. He's not going to get away with it at the NFL level. But for everybody who's going crazy about the highlights that they see on X, well, those are very carefully curated, and they're all going to make him look very good. This was not filmable, except by the Titans. The Titans aren't going to put these lowlights out. The other interception he was talking about, he rolled right. He made a throw he shouldn't have thrown. It got intercepted by a young cornerback. So tap the brakes a little bit. First day of minicamp, he was very good. This was kind of an open play day. He was efficient. It wasn't like out of control good. He completed a lot of passes. Receivers didn't drop stuff at the rate they typically drop stuff at these practices. He wasn't lighting the world on fire, but it was a solid day. The second day and third down was less precise, and the defense ramped it up and threw some blitzes at him and stuff, and he wasn't ready for all of that. The third day, two interceptions and a lost fumble, and less precise for sure, and another defensively. So I think, and also, and you should go read about this at paulkuharsky.com. I think a telling piece about he really throws the ball in the middle of the field. inside the numbers. There are not out-cutting routes that take a receiver towards the sideline, you know, at the sideline, and there are not routes that are taking a receiver up the sideline. Now, he's most comfortable with that. That is what he did in college. And the Titans are starting there. And even if his rookie year features a lot of that, that's fine. I wrote in this piece about Tua doing that, and Miami doing fine with that a lot of the time. And lots of young quarterbacks who are far worse than Cam Ward's going to be at the beginning. Coaches find ways to make things work for them with half-field reads on a lot of plays. The defense still has to cover the guy who's running up the left side and the guy who's in the left slot, even if the quarterback is taking a quick drop and reading only the right side of the field. So they can play the middle of the field and have success with the middle of the field, or have success with the middle of the field only running, minimal perimeter stuff, which is what he's least comfortable with. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue, but it is telling that the envelope is small. And I don't mean to be breaking Sammy's heart, Dwayne, but these are the facts and evidence at this point. Isn't this what practices are for? G says, learning what you can get away with. I prefer that to Mariota throwing 40 checkdowns at screen. Well, it is what practices are for to a degree. I mean, glorious savior quarterbacks who come in know not to throw across their body in field goal territory into the end zone. It's not like let me see if I can make this work. There were no receivers there. It's a very, very careless, reckless pass. I'd like him not to do it at all. That's not let me try this out. There are no receivers there. That's a force. It's not something any quarterback should be doing. So, Awaken says, do I think these interceptions on Cam Ward's part might justify Levis to any extent as it comes to the learning curve for rookie quarterbacks, or is Levis an interception? Come on. It's 2 interceptions on one day. Levis, the day before, had 2 terrific throws and then threw a screen to Julius Chestnut that practically, prompted Chestnut to do an aerial cartwheel in order to try to catch him. Extrapolate things that are in the context of the moment significant into a giant thing that makes him not an opening day starter is just too much. Let's keep things in the proper perspective. I think the last 2 days of OTAs make you say, this guy's not automatically gold. He doesn't have it all down the way, I don't know, Joe Burrow might have at his opening camp. Or if you think he's coming in and playing just like this terrific quarterback off of the snap, he's not. That doesn't mean, oh my God, you got to start Will Levis. He's got an entire training camp, and he's going to make some mistakes. And Willis is super mistake. Robert Pruitt. Apart from quarterback play, in what ways do I think this team will show significant improvement over last season? O-line is the only area you see as an answer today. Maybe special teams. Well, I do think special teams will be better. It's going to be significantly better coached. I'm convinced of that. Last 2 coaches were not good coaches, and I believe in my bones that Bones Fassel is a better coach. Offensive line should be better. That does not mean it's going to be great, but it should be better. Would have liked to see Kevin Zeitler out there getting some connection with Latham at least. But I don't think they're They should be a better run stopping team with these big edges in Draymond Jones, and I have just an absolute curse on me in terms of remembering. I'm going to get this down, Lorenzo Carter's name. And I wrote this week at Kuharsky.com also about Draymond Jones and Lorenzo Carter leading the Titans' new big body edge approach. You should head over to Kuharsky.com and read that. That piece is not behind the wall, but there is a ton of good stuff at Kuharsky.com. I urge you to get ahead of the curve. A lot of you are in here are members. A lot of you are in here are not members. For $7.50 a month, the best coverage of the Titans. It's the price of a cup of coffee or a drink, a cocktail. If you truly want to be a completely tied-in Titans fan, I'm as tied in with the coaching staff and the front office as anybody you're going to find. More tied in, I guarantee you. And we support independent journalism on this team, not beholden to anybody over there. So I urge you to support the cause. I appreciate the support. You get in a Facebook group where you talk with some other like-minded fans. You read Blake Bedingfield, you read Mike Herndon, you read James Foster. I'll send you a text telling you when these are happening, the podcast, so you can come in, ask questions live instead of just watching or listening later. Well worth the value. Has Restrepo moved in my mind after minicamp, or is he still just a fan favorite underdog receiver? Fan favorite underdog receiver. I mean, look, he's good at what he does, but I just think a lot of fans are refusing to understand that what he does is a very narrow role. He's strictly a slot receiver. He is not going to play special teams. I mean, if you need a sure-handed punt catcher, he's that. And they've got to have better than a sure-handed punt catcher. DK, maybe, though he's more of a kick returner than a punt receiver. I think James Prochet has a chance. He's impressed them. And if he makes the roster, there's no way Xavier Restrepo makes the roster. I mean, I have so many people telling me that Restrepo is absolutely the best slot on the roster. I don't know how you could possibly tell me, not having seen him play even a preseason game in the NFL, that he's better than Tyler Lockett, who's played 10 years in the league, just because he played 1 year with Cam Ward. He's not fast. He's faster than 4.8. He's in the mid 4.6s. That's still not fast. And I know Fossil praised the idea of him being able to do something on special teams besides return. I also know somebody with the team told me that, Jim Fossil, John Fossil, Bones Fossil, is one of those coaches who's enthusiastic about absolutely everything. Some coaches are unenthusiastic about everything. None of these guys can play. I don't like any. And some guys are the other way. Oh, I love everybody. All of these guys have a chance to help us. Fossil is that kind of guy. So that he had good things to say about Restrepo's potential to help them on special teams doesn't really mean a great deal at this stage. So have to wait and see. But I understand why people like Restrepo. My numbers on Restrepo stuff are outrageous. I don't really understand why so many Titans fans want Restrepo more than they want Isle Manor or DK to pan out, when the Titans clearly like those guys in a way that they thought they were worth fourth-round picks, and they did not think Restrepo was. So why do you like Restrepo more than you like DK and Isle Manor? Nobody's giving me a good answer for that question. G says, I agree with your point of view on special teams more than any opinion you give. How we play scared and look to avoid mistakes rather than trying to make big plays. Really hope Fossil changes that. I think he will. But look, they've been so bad for so long, and their standard for so long was secure the ball because they were that poor. And their standard still has to be secure the ball. I mean, they can't overlook not fumbling. But they need to get, 10 yards on a punt return on a regular basis and have potential to make a big play. And more important than that, have to stop giving up big plays. I mean, the defense was in horrific position on a regular basis because of their um, incompetence in coverage, and it was ridiculous. Ty Kendrick says the Restrepo stuff is it's because he has more heart, which can't be measured. I mean, you think Isle Manor doesn't have heart and that DK doesn't have heart? I mean, Restrepo's got a lot of heart because he's a little guy and he had to overcome odds and all of that, which is great. But to me, when you choose to root for him over other guys because you think he's got more heart, you're just insulting the other guys who have better qualification. And I think it's insulting to the other guys. Before Drew Bennett did anything, Titans fans were in love with Drew Bennett. And back then, part of it was that Drew Bennett was white. And I hope that's not what's going on here. And I don't want to get into this politics of that. And I know what a hot topic that is. And I hadn't thought until now that that might be part of what's going on. But I just don't overlook DK and Isle Manor, who are going to be on this roster. Or any of the young linebackers showing any growth. I don't think that any of the inside linebackers have done anything to me. And I'll go here. I have this on my list. I wrote, and I feel strongly this way, I don't have a problem with that second inside linebacker spot being the weakest spot on the defense, right? I don't care if that's the weakest spot on the defense. It might not. I mean, if Cedric Gray or James Williams play okay, it might not be the weakest spot on the defense, given what they have at edge or whatever. It will be the weakest spot. The problem is what happens if something happens to Barton. Because if something happens to Barton and you're playing James Williams and Cedric Gray, you're playing James Williams and Anthony Orji, or you're playing Cedric Gray and Anthony Orji, then you've got practically zero potentially at inside linebacker unless some of these guys really take off. And so the issue there is as much about the depth as it is about anything. And so I don't have a problem with the second starter being bad, but boy, if the number one starter gets hurt, you're really screwed. The other thing is that second starter is not going to be on the field a lot. You know, we asked Denard Wilson about, how often are you going to play like 5-1-5? Loaded front, loaded backfield. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much their nickel as it is. So, same thing with Mark Mariani. Somebody said Mark Mariani was a draft pick who, had a role on the team right out of the gate as a return man. But yes, the rooting for him as a wide receiver took that on. In my estimation, is inside linebacker 2 weaker than either edge spot? Yeah, it is, Sammy. Because I think, I don't know, Draymond Jones and Lorenzo Carter and Arden Key. If you take the three of them, I don't know what we're going to put as the pecking order, right? I think, and Femi. So let's put all four of them in. I don't know exactly how the pecking order breaks down, and I don't think you said 1, 2, 3, 4, because early down guys are going to be run stuffers, and they clearly went big body to run stuff and to power rush more than bend the edge. Partly philosophically, but also, the philosophy was hey, we lost out on a chance to get a speedy bend the edge guy. Those guys are super high quality guys that you get in the first round or with huge free agent money if one comes free, and none of those scenarios happen. So we're going to go bigger. We're going to make sure we set the edge. So I don't know how you necessarily number those guys, how much the numbering depends on who's on the field on first down, because the guys on the field on first down may be the run stoppers, and the guys on the field on third down may be the pass rushers. So are they technically the ones? I would think Arden Key is going to be on the field and pass rushing downs most of the time. Key and Green and Jones. Key and Jones would be my top two pass rushing choices, depending on Femi's development. But I do think that second linebacker spot is weaker. I just don't feel good about those guys being two-way players. It's the same question, though, really, for the edges, setting the edge and stopping the run versus rushing the passer, and for the inside linebackers being able to come forward and stop the run versus turn and run with a running back or a linebacker, a tight end, and play a role in coverage. So how two-dimensional are any of those guys? The Restrepo love comes from being overlooked. His tape wasn't bad, and he was Cam's guy. The draft, was he overlooked? The whole league didn't draft him. The whole league didn't think he was worth the draft. I see any improvement from Brownlee. Brownlee's still grabby. Levis made a big throw. I can't remember who it was to who made a really good catch downfield on the red line, the line that's 5 yards infield from the sideline. And Brownlee was grabbing that guy. So still some of the same stuff there. Wants to take on a bigger leadership role. Was talking to him yesterday about that and appreciate that. We could go here. I think one of the things that has me I'll get there. Sam, I think this is a good point. Sam says, sounds like the defensive personnel will have to be more complementary and situational than years past. I think that's the case. The problem is being situational. Unless you're in super short yardage or super long yardage, aren't things kind of less predictable than they've ever been in terms of run pass, or more pass heavy than they've ever been? So I think that's hard. Audrey's got a good question here. So let me get to the trash talking thing. Well, I'll tease the trash talking thing while I tell you about Edleys' wonderful barbecue here. I am in Franklin at Berry Farms, 501 Sarah Avalon Berry Lane in Franklin. More easily, I'll just tell you, get off 65 at Paytonsville Lane, head towards where all the action is, and Edleys is right there. This place is great. I cannot tell you how much I love their food. And everybody who's been here knows how good it is. The brisket is phenomenal. But if you're not in a brisket mood and you get the wings, that's phenomenal. The fried ribs I've talked about almost every time I've talked about Edleys. Terrific. This avocado plate, it's a whole avocado on there. It never misses. It's a big avocado, which is good for you, right? You can get chicken on it, pork on it, brisket on it, whatever you want. Barbecue sauce, all kinds of good vegetable things, beans, delicious. You can't go wrong. Service is terrific. You get through, if there's a line, it moves super fast. Typically, they do such a good job. There's not even anybody in line, even when it's crowded. They mix up really good cold drinks. Beer is always cold. Will Newman, who owns the joints and operates the place, is a terrific guy. It's a great Nashville local business. I'm a Nashville local business, and I really appreciate the relationship I have with them. So I can't urge you enough as we head into another great summer weekend to take some time out of your kitchen, away from your grill. Let Edleys do the work for you. Bring the family out. Come have lunch or dinner at Edleys this weekend. Next week, bring a business lunch out. Find an excuse. Come to Edleys. Pig out. Enjoy. I thank them for their sponsorship. Does the parking lot still get full at Berry Farms? Audrey asked. I always find a spot. And there's additional parking along the side here, which they welcome you to use. Ty Kendrick says he has been here before. Very good food and great service. And I agree. Where did we go? Audrey Collins. How can Cam Ward say he can hear the play call while talking trash all at the same time? This trash talking thing has been so overrated. First off, and I said this on the radio earlier this week, this whole offseason, the point scoring program and the separate teams and splitting guys up for them to get to know each other, and 8 captains and 8 separate associate captains and all of that. That's largely centered on creating a leadership opportunity. Now, Jeff Simmons chose to stay away from the voluntary part of the offseason, which is fine. It's his prerogative. He lost a bunch of weight. You know, a guy like that's going to be ready to go. It wasn't a great look, given that so many other guys were around for phase 2. You know, there were at least 2 days of that phase 3. Before minicamp, they had 90 of 91 guys around for at least 2 days of it, where Simmons was the only absentee. So he comes in for the mandatory minicamp. And Simmons is always loud, but he was especially loud. He came thundering in. He was going to announce to everyone, I may have been missing, but I am here now. And so trash talking to him apparently was one of the most important things. He heard that Cam talked some trash, and so he was going to talk some trash. Cam had not been talking that much trash, I don't think. He hadn't been that loud. And I don't think trash talking is that important. Now, did it infuse them with some energy? Sure. Is this fundamentally, gigantically important? No, it's really not. And a lot of people are making it like it is. And so this idea that Cam was finishing his trash talk with Simmons while he was hearing a signal from Callahan, and ultimately told Callahan, no, I can hear you while I'm finishing trash talk. I mean, that's nice that he can multitask like that. I wouldn't want that to be any kind of regular feature. I don't want my quarterback in a game to be talking to the other team while much more important things are going on, and he needs to be focusing on what comes next. No matter how good a multitasker he is, let's keep the eyes on the prize. Jeff, that's great that you can do that, but are you servicing the greater good of the team? No, you're not. So, I mean, this has gotten a lot of attention, a lot too much attention for me. It's not something I think is some great trait. I mean, that he can multitask is a great trait. Let him multitask by seeing pass rushers and finding an open receiver at the same time. That's a better use of multitasking than being able to hear a signal and talk trash simultaneously. Certainly to me. Did I catch Dan Hanzus on the Heed the Call podcast calling me out for being cranky and po-faced? I don't know what po-faced is regarding me calling out Graver for the camp recap pod despite not being there. Yeah, I'm going to call out guys anytime. And I like Graver and Mello. I think they do a nice job. But once in a while, they get so far to go far. And then they start sounding like, and I'm not talking about the podcast, I'm talking about the tweets. They advertise their tweets like, hey, we're doing a big minicamp recap, and it sounds like they're there. And one of them's in Canada. And I feel an obligation. I think everybody in the press corps does. They just don't say it. They feel like we're going to protect our work at some point in time. And there's a significant difference between people who work to make money by being around the Titans all of the time and work to get sponsorships to go to upcoming Tampa and Atlanta, and people who sit at home and read what we write from Tampa and Atlanta and talk about it. Those are two very different brands of coverage, and I think it needs to be delineated. Mine's delineated. Is everybody else's delineated? That tic-tac whatever delineates nothing as far as I know. And you could call me whatever you want. I don't think it's unreasonable for somebody to want to clarify the difference in the brands of work and for them to think it's important for you. And Dan Hanzus, I think, doesn't like me because he used to call the Titans. Somebody remind me what his nickname for the Titans was. I told him on the air when they had me as a guest, and it was a good spot, but his nickname for the Titans was like, there was no effort in it, and it wasn't funny. I can't even remember what it was. It was some play on the name just wasn't funny. So I told him, hey, man, nickname the Titans. They deserve a nickname, but it should be funny. He was breaking my first rule of comedy. Just be funny. The Titans passing on Pratt show more faith in Barton? No. It has nothing to do with Barton. It's about this second spot. Barton looks fine. Pratt is older and slower than they want if they're going to do something on that other thing. Yeah, Chase asks, do I ever get tired of beefing with other reporters, Easton? I get tired of people not allowing for somebody like me and Easton to have playful banter on Twitter and taking everything so fucking seriously all the time. We're friends. If he's fine with it and I'm fine with it, I don't give a shit what everybody thinks about it. All right, let's get into some of these other things that I have before I get back into the questions here. Other thing about Cam, by the way, and I'm not trying to buzzkill at all. I thought there was a lot of very good stuff. As I said, there were weak defensive backs that he took advantage of on the good days. They fared better in tight quarters in the red zone stuff, and the blitzes got increased in number and in exoticness later in the week, which he had some difficulty with. JohnPaulKuharsky.com. I mentioned that before. Retweet, give a thumbs up, subscribe on YouTube, like, rate, and review on Apple, Spotify, iHeart. Become a member. Appreciate you very much. Tell you quickly about VIP Play, another sponsor of this fine broadcast / audiocast. It is the premier betting experience where everybody plays like a VIP. Go there, download the app, sign up using PaulTN as the code, PaulTN as the code. You get an extra $50 bonus, really. Sign up for VIP Play, and you get a welcome bonus of $100 when you make a $5 or more bet, and you get an extra $50 for using the code. Here's the other thing that you need to know about VIP Play. What's going on now in the betting industry with these big apps that you are probably on is, and this was coming out yesterday, they're about to start adding a 50-cent surcharge to every bet, if you can believe that. We know the houses at all the betting apps do quite well, right? It's not a secret as to how these things work and why they're in the business. To take an additional 50 cents on your $5 or $10 bet is criminal. And you know who's not going to do that? VIP Play. That alone was the reason why you should go to my sponsor, VIP Play, sign up, and start betting there. Because they're not going to take an extra $0.50 on every bet you make, which is exceedingly unnecessary and a ripoff by their competition. VIP Play, go there, sign up, use PaulTN, get $100 credit when you make a $5 bet, plus an extra $50 for being connected to my site. And they're not going to rip you off with a 50-cent surcharge. Think about how much that'll add up to over time and how greedy that is. Not at VIP Play. Let's go. I'm less confident, slightly less confident in the defensive backs than I was before this offseason wrap. L'Jarius Sneed's not been out there. Daryl Baker's not been out there, all right? That means guys like Jamari Harris, who I still like the best out of the bunch and I wrote about, Marcus Harris, the 6th-round draft pick, Jalen Kimber, and Devin Ross. They didn't make a lot of plays. And in full field, they were better in short field stuff. In full field stuff, I didn't feel like they allowed some separation, some space. Now they're still learning. They're very young, and there's a lot going on there. But this could create more for the veteran from Dallas, Amani Uwuwarie. Still working on that one. I apologize. Uwuwarie maybe gets a big chance. He's incredibly long. I was having a little bit of trouble with the body type of long guys with long neck, but then I think of Merton Hanks, and it didn't bother Merton Hanks. Second inside linebacker we've talked about. Anthony Orji is definitely third in line. Otis Reese hasn't been talked about. He's got a bad ankle from last season, which cropped back up and was troublesome for him during this. So we haven't really seen Otis Reese the same way that we have not seen Daryl Baker. Daryl Baker had shoulder surgery after the season and was not around. Levis is clearly the number 2 quarterback. I think there's too much talk about trading him. I don't think there's a lot of franchise-wide faith in Brandon Allen as number 2 quarterback. Barring somebody really stepping up with a great trade offer for Levis, which I don't see. I don't see what it would be based on. Maybe he has 2 terrific preseason games and somebody gets hurt and changes their mind about Levis's value. There's nobody approached the Titans about Levis during the draft period when quarterback stuff was up for conversation. But I think it's pretty securely the number 2 quarterback right now. And I think he's absolutely, I've written this, I think he's absolutely deserving of that. I understand this. I understand the sins of the past. I absolutely do. And I'm not saying he wouldn't come in and make some bad mistakes again, but he's got more upside than Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle's an absolute non-factor in this thing. So take that for what it's worth. Surprises for me. I like Van Jefferson more than I expected. Very professional approach. Very professional approach. And, looks – I like what the 2 fourth-round picks have done, but Van Jefferson looks a notch above them, certainly as an experienced guy who knows what he's doing. So I'd be encouraged there. The Tajay Spears stuff, Callahan welcomed a question about him and welcomed an opportunity to say that he had some personal stuff going on last year. So maybe that's good. Maybe Tajay Spears, whatever was going on with him personally last year, has been resolved, and that will help him be a better football player this year. You hope that could be the case for him. That would be great for the Titans if they got a better version of Tajay Spears. I'm not a huge believer in Spears. I have trouble washing away some of the stuff last year, but if that was influenced by personal problems and he's a different kind of guy this year, that'd be terrific for them. Like him in space. I think they have trouble getting him in space. Throw to him more, hand off to him less is my philosophy with Tajay Spears. Corey Levin is so clearly the backup, and he got singled out for praise from Brian Callahan. I thought there would be way more of a competitive atmosphere for who would play while Lloyd Cushenberry is out. And if Lloyd Cushenberry can't start the season recovering from his ACL, Corey Levin has started 5 games in the NFL as long as he's been around. That's surprising. He's been, a transaction machine with the Titans for how much they've signed him and cut him and signed him and cut him. He had a couple other stops where I don't know if he was on the 53-man roster, but he was with a few other teams in camp, including the Patriots. He's only started 5 games, though. Mustafa, who they signed in the offseason, started 43 games with Chicago and then short stops in Baltimore and with the Chargers. I thought he would have gotten more of a look, and he may get more of a look in camp, but he has not made a dent in their love for Levin at this time, which is funny because I talked to them about the Cushenberry hole, all 3 of them, Brinker and Borgonzi and Callahan, at the owners' meetings. And they said, yeah, Levin. And then shortly thereafter, they signed Mustafa and Hymas, both of whom have center experience. And I thought, whoa, they're really creating some depth and competition for that position. And here we go, more full circle. And yes, Levin. Blake Hance has worked at guard for Zeitler with the ones throughout all of this stuff. And I was not alone in thinking that he would be the swing tackle because the swing tackle options on this team, 2 of them are complete duds. Duncan was terrible when he played last year, and I think Duncan, I'm not alone in the press corps in thinking this, is next in the line of guys who don't really love ball. Daly, Dillard, NPF, and now I'd put Duncan potentially in that chain. There are different degrees of not loving football, but I think Jalen Duncan is a guy who could be added to that list. Ojukwu, I think, likes football more. I just don't know how good he is. Oli Odo had 19 starts in Minnesota and New Orleans, so he's got some experience. And I know a lot of people are big on Brandon Dixon Crenshaw, the undrafted rookie. But I'm wary about an undrafted rookie being one snap away from replacing Moore on the left or Latham on the right. And so I still think ultimately Hance could wind up being the swing tackle. Maybe he's the swing everything. Maybe he's the first lineman. I mean, Bill Callahan was talking about him even having played center in a preseason game for him in Cleveland. But maybe Hance, if he plays well, is the first replacement at guard and the first replacement at tackle. We'll see. Do I have a problem? We'll go back to your questions here and finish up strong, and I appreciate all of you who are in here very much. Do I have a problem with Cam's 10 of 10 answer? No. Cam's allowed to be as confident as he wants to be. Now, that doesn't mean anything with related to how he's going to play. He hasn't played an NFL game. He hasn't played an NFL preseason snap. He hasn't played an NFL regular season snap. But, I mean, he could go out and play horribly in his first preseason game and still feel very confident about what he can do. Some guys are wired like that. He could play a bad preseason game and his confidence could waver a little bit. He seems to me like he's an eminently confident guy. He's allowed to be as confident as he wants to be. It could not make sense at some points to some of us. Like, how could you still be confident after you threw 6 interceptions in your first 3 games? And he could say, I'm just confident. My confidence doesn't waver when I don't perform well because I'm confident that in the long run I'm going to perform well. Who you're talking about has to parse everything in order to fill 4 hours a day. That to me is a weird thing to parse to that degree. Levis was pretty good throughout camp. He had that one day, I think it was Wednesday, where he had some very good throws and some really bad throws. Sam says for him, he likes that we have some edge on this team on the offensive end. Henry was great, but mild. AJ brought that for us before. He just likes that Cam has some dog. That's fine. But like Henry, the Titans offense was pretty good with Henry as the lead, and Henry didn't have any of that. I mean, he had plenty of dog in him. He just didn't have to talk about it, and that's fine too. Look, I like edge. I want there to be some edge. I think Jeff's edge in that regard is a little bit performative at times. Tytoons. This was Dan Han, who's his nickname for the Titans. Is that funny? Tytoons? I guess it's like cartoons. I don't find it funny. And Dan, I think, is a guy who, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know Dan's full back, but I think Dan is a guy who sits and analyzes stuff that other people report and do. And look, I can't deny that there's a huge place for people doing that in the NFL media landscape anymore. But I don't apologize for having a beef when they cross the line to pretending or letting it sound like they were out there. Jason, this is not an odd question at all. Oddball question, he says, but would I trade the Titans media sphere of 20 years ago over today's? Absolutely. Absolutely. players much more mature, much less sensitive, much more accountable. And look, not through their fault exclusively, through the fault of the way the whole thing has gone. On my side, probably, definitely, at least as much, but probably more so. Um, Understandably, they're more guarded. It's harder to get to know some of them. But to be honest, um, I feel like I have a relationship with, say, Peter Skoronsky. Um, Maybe not to the extreme that I did with Samari or Frank, but I think of him the same way. Equal in this time to what it was in that time, and I appreciate that. It was just more fun back then. You knew guys in a different way, and you could, BS with them, and they trusted you that certain stuff was kept inside, and they could trust me now on that. Quite frankly, I swear I know a lot of you aren't going to believe this, but there's bullshitting that would go on that I would have no interest in reporting. It's the new age guys who, have to report that Bill Polian's banging his fist in the press box. To me, that was always off the record. Or the quality of the food in the press box. To me, look, it's the team chooses to serve what it serves. That's free food for me. It's not for me to critique that publicly. But now guys have to take pictures of the food and talk about the food. Those are just a couple of examples. But Bruce Matthews had games arranged in the Titans locker room. Well, we were just kind of in the middle of those games. And, you might say, hey, can I do a story on all of the games that you do? But there wasn't a daily report on what the games were. Now, if they didn't tell us not to, there would be a daily ping pong game report. Do I think the thing with Snead is not his injury, but him just not wanting to be in Tennessee? No, I don't. I think he's got no control over where he is, for starters. If he's going to reprove himself, it's going to be here this year. It would be very stupid for him to be pouting over being in Tennessee. And they traded for a guy they knew was not going to practice a lot with a knee injury. What's positive growth look like for the Titans this year? Well, Nick wants it in terms of win. 6? And 6 would be positive growth. I think 6 is a good number. I'm much more concerned with how Cam Ward looks. Positive growth for Cam Ward steadily over the course of the year is my answer. There's a very hard question from William. Of all the past rookie quarterbacks for the Titans, where does Ward rank to me with talent and personality? Well, Jake Locker's down at the bottom. He wasn't very talented. His personality, he was a nice guy, but he didn't have much of a personality. Vince was very kind of temperamental after the early stuff and didn't face adversity well. I don't know how Cam's gonna face that stuff. And Vince had a lot of talent. Levis has kind of bombed out. I think he's got a great temperament and personality, and have a great mental handle. Who am I missing? I'm not going to cover Kevin Daft. TD and I, this is a good question. I mean, if you're into the inside media stuff, who do I find myself having to alpha male more to get my questions in? Terry or TD? TD and I can kind of look at each other, and I know TD likes to ask a quick follow-up and stay on theme. Terry has no concept of staying on theme and somebody asking follow-up to their initial question. Terry decides it's time for him to ask a question. He asks a question. I do that sometimes, too. I'm guilty of that. But Terry's a far bigger shouter. TD and I will, sometimes see each other and say, you go or you go. It's a little bit too much of a fight to get a question in now in some situations because it's more crowded and because the time's limited, like with Cam. I'm going to make a concerted effort to kind of lay back more. I'll get my questions in time. Tall Texan raises something early here. The problem with TikTok, whose name I hate to even mention, and Easton, among others, is that some people actually rely on them for their actual football knowledge. Media should be relied on for news, not football knowledge. I disagree with that to an extent. I'm not a big X's and O's guy. That's not my lane. I'm more of a news guy, an analysis of what people are saying and what's happening and what their explanations are for what's happening, and maybe finding a cool lane. Like example, they threw in the middle field. Why? I talked to Cam about it. I talked to Callahan about it. I talked to Holtz about it. I talked to Hardigree about it. I think I wrote a good story about what that meant. That's a football story. Easton wants to be a football knowledge guy, and I think he's got some football knowledge. TD knows football from having played football. I have no idea what TikTok knows or doesn't know. I just don't care for the way he presents himself, and I pay no attention to him. I've got him blocked, and I don't want him, and I know most of the media corps probably won't say so, but they don't want him to see our stuff because a lot of his use of it feels like theft. Do I think Levis's value is lower than Willis's value was this time last year? No. But, I mean, they didn't get much for Willis, and I don't think they'd get much for Levis, and I don't think they're going to trade Levis. What do I think Levis is like in the quarterback room right now? Does Cam have any sort of mentor in there? Well, I mean, Levis doesn't have much success in the league or experience in the league to be a mentor. I think this mentorship is somewhat overrated, but Allen and Boyle are the mentors, which, they're not very successful quarterbacks. Tim Boyle knows how things work in the league, but he hasn't had any success anywhere. So, I mean, there's some mentorship at some things, but not at how to win. I don't know how you say Levis seems pretty miserable. I mean, he had a big interview session yesterday. I didn't participate in it. I didn't hear any of it. I think he's going through an adjustment phase. I mean, he's a human being. All right, we'll go a couple more here. We're getting close to an hour. Hype beats out logic. That's pretty funny from Jay. I agree with that. VIP play referral code is PaulTN. PaulTN. Thank you for asking. Oh, Pac-Man comes up. Thank you, Jack Shepard. Pac-Man's reformed. Pac-Man's misunderstood. And then his friggin' agent, Peter Schaefer, puts out the 5 paragraphs that everybody publishes that the police are just out to get him out of these minor incidents. How about this? How about you stop having minor incidents that involve the police? If you don't have minor incidents, then there's no occasion for the police to misunderstand you or target you or any of this. How about this? Get fucking sober and stop being drunk all of the time where you misbehave, which creates minor incidents where you say the police overdo it with your client. How about people stop writing pieces about Pac-Man being reformed, right? How about the Titans stop giving Pac-Man time on their site? Hey, Pac, what do you remember about the good old days with the Titans? It's time for this guy to suffer some serious consequences. He's got a podcast. Pat McAfee probably called him up, had him on the air. Hey, Pac, are you okay? Are you okay after assaulting that police officer? For fuck's sake, when are we done with this guy? Audrey asked about the podcast schedule while the team is on break. Team on break. Pardon my French, guys. My podcast schedule, I'm going to be on break, will be light. Next week, I got probably 3 pieces, 2 from me, 1 from James Foster. After that, I'm going to slow down some, and I think podcasts will be thin. I got some No Depression playing in the background here from Uncle Tupelo, I believe. I would do a podcast with TD if he wasn't tiptoeing around ESPN. Probably not like it. And I've done one with him and Buck before. Does Cali survive a 6-win season? If the Titans are about what they say they're about, he survives a 6-win season, unless there's something catastrophic in the midst of it during that 6-win season. But I don't believe that they're necessarily about what they say they're about, because Amy Adams Strunk is involved and she's very temperamental. I mean, if Cali doesn't make it through the year, do you think they hire somebody with a personality like Gruden? Callahan's got a pretty big personality. I don't think personality is going to be a big factor in who they hire. Am I and Glennon, a.k.a. Johnny, a.k.a. Glenn Gleno, still tight? Yes. Very tight. Following his nephew's run for a state championship in soccer up in Northern Virginia. Pac-Man's the only guy I hate worse than Bates. Bates, I have to give credit. Bates has turned himself into I'm impressed with what Bates has done since his career ended. And I go overboard on Pac-Man, but look, I don't have a particular appreciation for guys who threatened my life who I took seriously. Gruden should not be high on any list. Gruden's coaching career in the NFL should be done. The recycling coaches, that's for the NBA. NFL, that's always time for new, young innovators. Now, what I fear is if they're looking for a coach, I fear Mike McCarthy. That's who I wouldn't want. And I don't think they would go that direction, but I certainly hope not. Please, VIP play. Use the code PaulTN. No 50-cent surcharges coming there. Eat at Edleys. I wish you could smell it here. If you could smell it, you would be on your way here already. I'd be like a Pied Piper. Join PaulKuharsky.com. Get ahead of the curve. Some good stuff coming next week, and you'll be ready for the season, primed for a lot of great stuff coming. And don't block the box. Be sure, please, to lock your locks. I appreciate all of you who came. Have a great weekend.